right, everyone, we're talking about movie going and what does the future look like for movie theaters with the success of Spider-Man No Way Home. A lot of folks are saying this is proof that in-person movies are here to stay. Dr. Andrew Draper is the co-host of the Off-Script Film Review podcast, also a staff member at the SMU Meadows School of the Arts, and he's joining us now with some insight into this. Dr. Draper, thanks for being here. Let's start, if we can, by framing this for folks at home. How successful, by box office standards, was Spider-Man?
Oh, it completely blew everything out of the water. It's made over $1.3 billion, and it's the first movie in the pandemic era to cross the billion-dollar mark.
So that's successful by any standard, pandemic or not. But does it disprove this notion that people aren't going to the movies anymore, or does it just prove they'll only see certain movies in the theater?
Audiences will come out for big familiar properties, things like Marvel and Star Wars, but smaller films and original films are still really struggling to find an audience.
You don't think streaming's going to close that gap for them?
Streaming will definitely help. Smaller films do much better, and studios can kind of recoup their losses by selling to streaming services, and also the rental market also helps in that area. But
the difference there is you don't have the cachet that comes with saying, we had an incredible box office opening weekend. Doesn't that sort of feed on a film's success? If someone hears that it had a great first weekend, more people go, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas if it just kind of, I don't know, kind of limps along and it has a little streaming audience here and it has some moviegoers there, it doesn't carry with it the same weight.
No, it's not near as impressive as a big opening weekend at a box office. However, if a film isn't doing well in the theaters from the beginning, there's not really much you can do. So moving it to a streaming service quickly or to rental quickly is just good financially for the film.
I mean, don't you think it's possible, though, too, that we're going to hear more and more about films that kind of are introduced at theaters, maybe for the sake of awards, and then slowly over a few weeks it starts to build buzz? We've seen that with TV series, like, for example, Breaking Bad was a series I didn't really start watching until the last season when it started streaming, and you could binge watch it.
Yes, word of mouth still helps some, but there's been just very few films that's happened to recently that have really got buzz going for them. I can't even really think of one recently that's had that happen.
Do you feel like the film industry has pretty much, I mean, I'm watching, for example, and Jenny and I were talking about this, Emily in Paris. There is nowhere in that series imprinted any storyline or reference to COVID at all. And I know they shot it during COVID. So there's a real machine now around movie making that allows them to do crowded scenes in a bar, for example, and everyone's been tested and everybody's been vetted, and they're not making it part of the storyline. Do you think Hollywood and filmmakers have adapted and they're going to get through this?
Well, they're taking two approaches. They're acting like the pandemic never happened, and then some studios or some films are completely embracing it. That we've already seen several pandemic-set films created in the last few years. Yeah, so you're right. They're either making it part of a storyline, right? Like I think about Morning Show and the shift in that storyline when they realized the pandemic was happening is integral. And then you've got, like I said, Emily in Paris. It's like, what pandemic? No idea. All right, Dr. Draper, good to see you. Thank you. We want to let people know they can listen to your podcast, the Off-Script Film Review podcast. There it is. Go to Off-Script Film Review on social media to follow Dr. Draper.